In this Keep or Trash free plugin video, we're going to be talking about Wave Alchemy's MAGIC7. And so by the end of this video, I'll give you my take on whether this is a plugin I want to keep in my collection, if it's something I think I'll actually use, or if I might as well just delete it because I'm never going to pull to it ever in any production setting. And that's the point of these videos. It's to try to cut down on clutter. Just because something's free and available doesn't mean you should just add it to your plugin collection, especially if you're not going to use it. Now, this MAGIC7 is a reverb plugin based on the Bricasti M7, which is kind of, to my knowledge, maybe the only unit like this people are still buying regularly. You'll find this in most high-end studios. It's kind of considered like a holy grail of like DSP reverbs, but the average bedroom producer, you're just going to use what you have in the DAW. And again, or what you can buy with plugins or get for free with plugins. And so that's sort of what this is replacing. We're not going to do a one-to-one comparison. We can't. I don't have one of these units. They're like $3,000. But just to quickly go through some alternatives as well, I think these are all paid ones, except for this. You can go to this website and you can grab some impulse responses from the unit itself, which we will take a listen to as well in this video. Of the higher end plugin options, you could go with Liquid Sonic's Seventh Heaven Professional. You could get that for $300, but again, this is free. And I actually don't see that many people using this thing, despite the Bricasti really being a holy grail. And I'm not as in the know as I used to be, but I don't really see many people using this thing anymore, mainly because of all the alternatives that exist in the DAW that don't necessarily need to use impulse responses. So something like the Renaissance Reverb, still very popular, used to this day, has 12 reverb types. I know we're only seeing the Hall here, but just like what we're going to look at with the Bricasti, you have a lot of different choices with the waves, with the R-Verb, still used regularly. The Vintage Verb from Valhalla, obviously tons of different reverb options you have here. We also have the Valhalla Room that has a lot of different reverb options. And then something more standard, just like this Brainworks Rooms. This is a good comparison to it, where you have like these 6 or 7 modes and then you can choose the relative size. But without further ado, let's go into the DAW and let's figure out if we want to keep or trash Wave Alchemy's MAGIC7. And I've just brought in a fresh instance of it so we can quickly go through the plugin and the options and how it's working.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And that's what it's going to sound like by default. Couple of settings. Probably the only thing that really matters is the zoom. If you want to make it a little bit bigger for yourself, like I want to do here, that's perfect. And so when you bring this in, you have your reverb type. Okay. And then within that, you kind of have some different presets you can choose from. And then there's also just like the global presets from the instrument, which is going to take advantage then of these other kind of settings, like the pre-delay, the low emphasis, the air emphasis, ensemble or flux, maybe do some smoothing and ducking. But just by default, really this instrument is about these two options right here and what you choose. So let's take a listen again.
Running, jumping, hiding.
You can tell already it sounds quite good. Let's go ahead to ambience.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And let's see if we have one that's maybe a little bit bigger. You'll notice that we can't do things like tweak the size. We can't do anything with like early and late reflections. And honestly, that is a good thing because, well, for me, it's a good thing because nowadays with some of these reverb, there's just so many settings, you don't even know where to start. But if you can just find something that you like right out of the gate and don't need to tweak any further, perfect. So here's a long ambience.
Running, jumping, hiding.
Let's just bring that down a little bit.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
And then just to go through the settings really quickly, we have a pre-delay, which you can set in milliseconds, or you can do the delay sync. Now, why that's going backwards, I'm not really sure, but fine as long as it works. And this is actually something that I wish every single modern reverb just had out of the gate. And this is great to just have this here. And you'll see why in a second when we look at one of the settings I've done. But yeah, let's go and let's change this to a Hall.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And then let's just go ahead and put like a something kind of obvious. We'll put like a 16th note delay on it.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And it basically is making it a slapback delay, which is really cool. So let me actually just switch it over to milliseconds.
Running, jumping, hiding.
Just put a little bit here.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And then we can listen to what the low, the air, and the ensemble and flux are doing very quickly by just going to 100% here.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
So basically just like a little shelf EQ for both sides.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
And it will depend on your source material.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running.
And then we have like an ensemble. So this is kind of going to do like the chorusy thing to the reverb.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
It sounds pretty good. And then we have flux, which is like a very extreme kind of like pitch wobble.
Running, jumping, hiding.
Sounds cool.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And so usually what you might do just to give the reverb a little bit of variance is you might choose one of those and put it to like a lower setting. Or again, if you just love what it sounds like out of the gate, you really don't have to touch any of these things at all. Now we also have a smoothing and a ducking. And for smoothing, I believe what that's trying to do is like when there is a heavy transient, it kind of tries to like limit that a little bit in the reverb so that it's not going to have like, well, really what it's trying to do is dense it up a little bit versus having like those spikes in the reverb. For my examples here, I don't know if we're going to hear the biggest difference in the world, but let's set this to like 50%.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And now let's try to smooth it a little bit.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
And where I would really be listening in this example is on the jumping part, because that part also jumps out a little bit. And let's hear when this is on 0.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
So you can hear that it smooths it out. It's almost like doing like a limiting to the reverb.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
Which in this case actually does sound pretty good. So maybe I would just put it to like 60%. And then we also have a ducking. So it depends on the source material, but again, like if you had drums or something, you might want to duck out the reverb for when the drum's actually playing and then just have the reverb fill in the space. What I found by kind of experimenting with it on the more common uses for this particular like hardware unit is a little bit goes a long way. So like when you get too far, it's going to go too far.
Running, jumping, hiding.
Like that.
Running, jumping, hiding.
But again, as a special effect, that's cool. And that's going to be kind of my takeaway from this video when we get to the end, spoiler alert. But to put this into something more reasonable, I feel like 30% usually is good.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And even that's maybe a little too obvious.
Running, jumping, hiding.
But what we're trying to do is let the original vocal stick out a little bit more without all that reverb.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
And that's pretty good.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And I haven't even really talked about the quality of these algorithms. And that's because they're just good. Again, not trying to do a compare and contrast to the original unit, but these do sound good and I do really like them. So let's go to our plates.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
Once again, try to find that
Running,
sweet
jumping,
spot.
hiding.
Let's give it a little ensemble.
Running, jumping, hiding.
It's a little too much.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
Very nice.
running, jumping, hiding.
And then maybe we'll put a little tiny bit of pre-delay on this.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
But since we have the duck turned on, the pre-delay sounds kind of bad because it's almost like, yeah, it's not going to make sense to maybe do that. So anyway, that's like a very brief, quick overview of this thing. Again, there are some presets, so you can see if I choose something, like let's choose Icicle Toms, we can see that it's gonna, or I believe it should move these things around. So I can't remember what I had set up the other one as, but I don't believe it was that. Yeah, so we can see them jumping around.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
That's wild.
Running, jumping, hiding.
Do a really wild special effect.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
And again, my big takeaway from this instrument is actually kind of using some of these things as special effects. And so on this one, I did an example where I was just kind of playing with it myself, and I really liked the way this sounded as a special effect.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And for me alone, just being able to do that and like, save that as a preset is enough to make this a keep, because this is not something that you can do with like other reverbs or even delays like as fast as you could set it up with this. So this thing is all about speed, picking a setting that you like and not overthinking it. And whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, lifetime producer or mix engineer, being able to do things quick and not overthink it and still have it sound good is what it's all about. So again, I'm not trying to compare this to the original in any way, shape, or form. I just know to my ear, it sounds good. And it's going to be, in a lot of ways, more flexible than what my DAW's reverb has. So when I bring in my DAW's standard reverb, and of course, now I'm accidentally bringing in a plugin. When I bring in my DAW's standard reverb, you can see I have like just a couple options here for room or hall, for the reverb mode, and then like size. And yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it would be easy to overthink these settings and probably make it sound bad. And I very rarely, if ever, use the Bitwig one unless it's just for like these sorts of tutorials or something where I'm doing exclusively Bitwig stuff. But really, this thing here is going to be fast and quick. And it's, again, knowing that I'm going for that like DSP kind of sound, and I'm not going for like an actual real world plate, or even in some cases like an actual real world room or hall. I would use something different. So here was another setting for this vocal, and I promise we'll go to something else shortly, where I just was like, okay, yeah, I like the way this sounds.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
And that was literally just barely touching the smooth and the duck parameters, and I liked it. And that was it. It was that simple. I also wanted to just show that inside of Bitwig anyway, we actually do have, and this is why I put these two up side by side, this was the vocal plate option from the Bricasti. Okay, that's where this is coming from, 2.3 seconds. We can see that. We can see on this one, this was also 2.3 seconds. Now, this one doesn't give me, well, it does give me like a brightness control, which is probably similar to me tweaking the low in the air. But again, not a whole lot else, relatively speaking. So anyway, let's just listen to these. I don't want to go into this plugin. It's not important.
Running, jumping, hiding.
So we can hear that from the Bitwig.
Running, jumping, hiding.
And it's still like this one. We almost have to bring that mix down more.
Running, jumping, hiding.
Yep. And then we'll listen to the Bitwig.
Running, jumping, hiding. Running, jumping, hiding.
Yep. So there you go. That's like a quick side by side on those. Here I have a piano, and this time I've actually brought in one of the impulse presets. So let me make sure I can actually get to that so you can see. So I brought in one of those folders and it has 134 options. So this was from that Sample City, I think the website was called. And so it brings in tons and tons and tons and tons of options you can choose from. And I just choose the Quad 48K folder, deleted all the other folders. And so here's like the Berliner Hall. And let's listen to this piano dry first. And let's see if we can find the right tempo. Let's bring this into something reasonable. And maybe I want to darken it up. And again, you'll notice on this one, I do have a pre-delay option, but I can't turn that into beat sync, which I think would be really cool if you could. Okay, and then we have our magic option here. And this one I chose large and bright, but let's see if we do have some kind of Berlin Hall. There's one right there. And I'd probably want to smooth it with those transients really coming through. So that sounds great. And you can see that I can get a setting that I'm going for really fast. And then finally, we had one other example on here. And I think the reason I brought this on was to show like, okay, you know, one of the other kind of classic digital reverbs, like the Lexicon 224 from UAD. Now, I do know how all of this stuff works, and I do know how to click the different things to get to different modes, but it is a real pain. It is not something that I really want to even have to deal with. So to be honest, when I use this plugin, I tend to almost exclusively just go through presets and then adjust the dry wet mix and do that via just the window here in Bitwig, because there probably is a way to do something similar in terms of changing or dragging. I've never figured it out. So let's go ahead and let's just do this as a last example, and we'll bring in the magic as well. So that's just the reverb sound. And I got to this result by going through presets. And even though it says ballad vocals, I thought this one sounded very good. And then when I need to do the mix, that's how I do it. And so with this one, you choose your option up here. So I should have mentioned that. So this would be a small hall. Let's go in solo mode again. And then, yeah, for me to pick my preset, I preferred that one. Okay, so I just wanted to give another very quick digital reverb example, but the reason I'm showing that is like I don't really love that workflow very much. So let's bring in the MAGIC7 one more time. I'm trying to find the right... I don't want it to be too obvious. And yeah, let's pick something like, let's do one of the spaces. Let's pick a space and let's do cavern. It's nice and dark. Maybe a little too dark. Ooh, okay, I kind of like that. Don't think I love the ducking. And now we just find what we like. There we go. I think I like that. There also is a button you can use to just randomize the settings, which, I mean, if you want to do that, you can. You never know, you might get something good, but I really wouldn't recommend that on something like a reverb. Like, just use, you don't have to be like a skilled music producer, or not, I shouldn't say skilled is the wrong word. You don't have to be like a super experienced music producer just to go in here and kind of pick something that sounds good. It's not going to take too long. So in conclusion, keep or trash on the MAGIC7. I think it's definitely a keep. Very fast and easy to work with, and you can even do some special effect type things with it. But if you really want to kind of do a compare and contrast with some impulses, you can download those impulses, bring those in, and listen to those as well. But I love the flexibility of just doing this is so much faster. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching, and let me know your thoughts and your experiences with this thing. I'm sure some people are going to listen to it and say the reverb sounds like trash, but to me, it sounds really, really good. So to each their own, I suppose. And everyone have just a wonderful day, and you'll hear from me soon. Take care.